Hello, welcome to episode 20 of the Queen's Lariat podcast. I'm your host, AJ, and on today's episode, we do our part two on our deep dive of damage control. But before that, please like, share, and follow us on Twitter. Like, share, and subscribe on YouTube, and like, share, and follow us on TikTok, where we do our Joshi Wrestlers You Should Know series every day. So let's begin. So we left off in part one with the Kabuki Warriors joining Damage Control and a power shift in the group. While Bailey was still the mouthpiece of the group, her position as leader was starting to be questioned by Io and the Kabuki Warriors. After introducing Asuka into the group and being interrupted by Bianca, Charlotte, and Shotzi, Damage Control challenged them to a War Games match, which they would go on to lose after Charlotte, Bianca, and Shotzi recruited Becky Lynch to be on their team. After the match, Bailey's leadership was once again brought into question, even though she did all she could to get her team to win at War Games. Out to prove to the group that she was still a good leader and to assert Damage Control dominance in the women's division, Bailey came up with a plan to put gold around the waists of all the members of Damage Control, except Dakota, who was still recovering from her torn ACL. The plan started with getting the tag titles on the Kabuki Warriors, which happened on the SmackDown the night before the 2024 Royal Rumble, which the Kabuki Warriors defeated Katana Chance and Kaden Carter to take the gold. The next night at the Royal Rumble saw Bailey win the Rumble. With everything going according to plan, Bailey had a choice to make: her friend Io or the Women's World Champion Rhea. Now, throughout the Kabuki Warriors' time in Damage Control, them and Io would talk crap about Bailey in Japanese, and on the February 2nd episode of SmackDown, Bailey would catch the three again talking about her, this time in English. Hearing about their plan to turn on her that night, Bailey revealed that she knew that they were talking crap about her this whole time and saying that she only wanted the best for Damage Control. While questioning Io and telling her that she changed since the Kabuki Warriors came back, the Kabuki Warriors struck and attacked Bailey, which didn't go to plan because Bailey knew of their plan to turn on her and had a steel pipe with her. She got the upper hand and announced that she would be facing Io at WrestleMania. During the build to the match, Dakota was missing, eventually telling Bailey that she knew nothing of the other's plan and that she was at the doctor's trying to get cleared for a return. Eventually, Dakota ends up turning on Bailey as well. With no friends or allies, Bailey is surprised to see Naomi, Jade, and her former rival Bianca come to her aid and challenge the rest of Damage Control to a match at WrestleMania. Bailey ends up beating Io, and the rest of Damage Control end up losing to the Big Three. This essentially marks the end of Damage Control, with Damage Control being moved to Raw in the draft and no payoff to the Io, Dakota, and Bailey story. The Kabuki Warriors would lose their tag titles to Bianca and Jade at Clash in I think Paris that year. Asuka, who was working through a knee injury, would be out for the rest of the year after the match. Kairi would also suffer an injury months later, and Dakota would eventually get injured, leaving Io by herself. When everyone returned, Damage Control was quietly disbanded. Now, a couple thoughts on this part of our deep dive. Now, I will say this. While Io already was kind of turning on Bailey and kind of didn't like Bailey at that point, I think the Kabuki Warriors coming in really, really took her to the point of no return with Bailey. And I do believe that the Kabuki Warriors manipulated Io and kind of pushed her towards kind of turning on Bailey. And that's because if you think about it, right? Kyrie has never really liked Bailey in kayfabe because of what her and Sasha Banks at that time did to her, getting her out of WWE, beating her down. So it's not too far fetched to think that the Kabuki Warriors would hatch a plan to turn Io against Bailey to get back at Bailey for what she did. Um, Also, I believe that Dakota wanted to be leader of Damage Ctrl as well. That's why she went with the rest of Damage Ctrl. Seizing her opportunity to, progress herself in her career, she went along with the rest of Damage Ctrl. But I guess we'll never know the motives behind any of that because, like I said, WWE dropped the ball, in my opinion, with the whole Damage Ctrl storyline. You could have easily did another match between Io and Bailey. And then, of course, the Io versus Bailey versus Dakota. And then, like I said, it was a lot more you could have got out of Damage Ctrl. And I know injuries happen, but I feel like they dropped the ball on Damage Ctrl. But that's just my thoughts on the whole Damage Ctrl storyline. I still think that they were a very solid faction in WWE. We could have got more from Damage Ctrl than we did. But yeah, anyways, if you like this kind of podcast, we talk about women's wrestling. We definitely talk about Joshi wrestling here. Please like, share, and follow on X. Like, share, and subscribe on YouTube. And also, please like, share, and follow on our new TikTok, where once again we do Joshi wrestlers you should know every day. Thank you. I'm out.